And welcome to this week's Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25, where we talk St. Mary's athletics here on HBC. I'm Dean Beckman, the faculty athletics representative. Donny Nadeau is our sports information director. And this week on the program, we have our two playoff-bound coaches. We've got Joe Fano here from the men's basketball team. And later on the program, Sarah Murray from women's hockey will join us. And so, Donny, this is the last show before St. Mary's spring break. And what better time than to bring in our two playoff-bound coaches? A lot of excitement in the air at St. Mary's about these teams.
Absolutely, no question about it. And Coach, how does it feel to hear a playoff-bound men's basketball program? It's got to feel pretty good for you.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm just really happy for the team and the guys. And last night we've had a lot of games that we've played with some pressure the last month of the season, and it's really great to see them come through and be excited and accomplish something.
Yeah, so a round one victory over Bethel, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But Joe, you mentioned those kind of pressure-packed victories late in the year. How much pressure did you as head coach, and do you think the players maybe felt the men's basketball team had not been to the playoffs in 35 years? And so there certainly is some pressure there. Is that something you talked about? Was it discussed? How did that play out?
A little of both. To be honest, I feel like there was a lot of pressure on them. So I tried to take that off them by saying we just need to play basketball. Mm-hmm. And if you don't think about the pressure and you just think about playing basketball, then it kind of hopefully eases your mind and you just go play. Having said that, I know that's easier said than done. But it was. We had some weight on our shoulders the last month of the season, and we felt like every single game was like do or die. It's like, oh my God, if we don't win this, and then if we lose this one, and then we just felt a lot of pressure. And but they obviously adapted well, and they handled it the right way. And we ended up that was our goal, to make the playoffs. And before the season was set, that was our goal, and we reached our goal. And at the end of the day, here we are.
And yet your goal was to make the playoffs, and you're still playing. So just making the playoffs wasn't all you did. And really against Bethel, a team that going to Robertson Center, I know we talked yesterday that you have not performed well at Bethel's home court. It's been 25 games since you had won there. Yeah. What was the difference Tuesday night?
Well, I didn't even know that. I knew we saw after the game that I think it was 20-something years was the first time that we've won there, and I didn't even realize that until after the game. But we lost last year. We lost by 26 to them, I think, or 27, mm-hmm. And this year we lost by 26. So I knew we were playing well, but I was worried. I was like, for whatever reason, we haven't played well there. But we also didn't have Raheem there the first game, and that helped. Obviously, we weren't at full strength when we played them the first time, but when we played them at home, the last 2 years we played them tough. Last year, I think we lost by 6 or 8, and it was a close game. We had a lead with a couple minutes left, and they ended up pulling away from us at the end. But then this year, we beat them at home. They didn't have one of their better players, Kingland, but so this was like, okay, now both teams are at full strength, and we were on their court, and the guys played well, and we had a ton of alumni and fans there, and I know they enjoyed that, and I think it really helped us.
So, Joe, you got out to a quick start in Tuesday night's game. You've got a lead, and then Eli Cave comes down and drills like a 30-foot three-pointer. Not sure if that's how you drew it up or not, but clearly that quick start is what gave the team a lot of confidence and kind of propelled you the rest of the way. And then defensively, you really limited Bethel's shooting. They shot at a very low percentage, especially in that first half. Yeah,
our goal going in was we need to defend the three. And I thought we did that. And the guys have done a really good job. We went with a little bigger lineup yesterday too, so we used our length to our advantage, and I think that really helps us defensively against a team like that who wants to shoot the three. I think they made 14 threes against us the first time they beat us, so we knew that, hey, we defend the three and we rebound, we're going to win. You know, we're second in the league in rebounding, which in second in the league in offensive rebounding. So I knew, and they I think are one of the bottom teams in the league in rebounding. So we knew going in, defend the three and rebound. If we do those things, we have a great chance of winning the game.
You know, let's just rewind a couple of weeks. You lock up a conference title against Gustavus, big win in itself, and then you go to St. Thomas to close out the season, ranked number 3 in the country. and you come up 2 points short in a game that really the end didn't really dictate the game, because they get a technical foul, they make 2 free throws, they score with 9/10 of a second.
Yeah.
Can you talk about maybe what your players learned from that game that they were able to take into the postseason?
I think the biggest thing is they learned that they can play with anybody, and to play with a team as good as St. Thomas, who is third in the country, and to know that, I mean, we had an 18-point lead with 10 minutes left to go in the game. We were up 10 with 2.5 minutes left to go in the game. And they shot 8 free throws in 2 minutes, and they give them credit, they hit a couple big threes down the stretch. But you have to learn from that. And before the game, I told them this was actually the first game that we've played in a month that we don't feel the weight of the world on our shoulders. Let's just go play basketball, have fun. And again, it was kind of defend the 3 and let's see what happens. And that's what happened. And we just, but to answer your question, to learn from that is, I mean, we have to learn to play with a big lead, and we have to take care of the ball a little bit better. We have to make our free throws, and we need to get better at knocking our free throws down the stretch. Even yesterday, I mean, it was, that could have been a 20-point win if we made our free throws. So we know we need to do that. We're practicing them every day. It's just a matter of knocking them in.
And guess what? You get to play St. Thomas again. You get another shot at them. And I know I was talking to Greg Martin earlier this morning, and he said that they're very excited to get another shot at them. Sure. How do you make sure that they take what they learned from that first meet or their last meeting with them, and not maybe even be too overconfident, knowing that it was a 2-point game the first time?
Yeah, I mean, they know that. I mean, St. Thomas they respect us. They do, and they know that they're going to come in and have to be prepared for us and be ready to play. And I told the guys it was a little bit of, we took the Hamlin loss pretty tough because we knew that was a game that we let slip away. So having to beat Gustavus, but what I might have my numbers wrong here a little bit, but I told them before the game is last year we beat Gustavus for the first time in 35 years, I want to say.
Yep.
Well, then we lost to Hamlin, and I said, now we got to go back to Gustavus, and if we win this game, it would be the first time we would make the playoffs in 35 or 36 years. Mm-hmm. So it was like maybe it was meant to be, and then we won that game at Hamlin, and now we lost the game at St. Thomas. How we lost it was a heartbreaker. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe it's meant to be. Maybe we get these guys in a rematch. If things work out, and sure enough, Olaf pulled off a little bit of an upset against Augsburg yesterday, and here we are, we got a rematch. But we know they're a good team, and we're going to watch film on it and hopefully improve. And the tough part is you only have 1 day to prepare now. So it's boom, boom, and you're playing, and it's, they've had 5-6 days off to prepare for us. And we just have to be ready to go today and be focused in practice, and we're going to give it our best shot.
In that preparation standpoint, now you and I have always talked how it's nice when you don't have a Monday game, because then you can prepare. The fact that you just played them on Saturday, does that help in the preparation, in the fact that you only have 1 day to do it?
I think being that we played them just a few days ago helps. If we would have played them 3 weeks ago, right. It would have been different. But being that we just played them, it's fresh in our minds. They haven't even played, so they're going to play us twice in a row. So from a film standpoint, the clips are right there. We watch our game and we learn from that, and we try to adjust and tweak a few things that maybe we need to do a little bit better, or maybe we need to do a little bit more of, and we just go out. Like I said, the guys are excited. I don't feel they're playing with a lot of pressure on them now. Nobody expected us to be here, and they're just going out and playing basketball.
I'm going to ask you to talk about the keys to this team without using the names Eli Cave and Sawyer Rosner, because really, as they are the offensive drivers of this team, they really are only a little cog in why you guys are so successful right now.
Yeah, I would say Kareem has been phenomenal. His role, quite frankly, there's probably games he should be starting a lot, but he's accepted his role coming off the bench. He's been phenomenal defensively. He's been shooting the ball much better. He's been taking much better shots. He's great in our break, and paired up with his brother. I mean, it just makes phenomenal passes to him, and those two are a great 1-2 combination. But Kareem has been fantastic defensively, and Deshaun and Greg as well, coming off the bench defensively. Those guys get after it. They really wear down the other team's point guards. They kind of pick up full court and just kind of badger them all game, and that's our game plan, is to wear them down. And then hopefully they just, in the second half, is kind of where we kind of take over, because we're fortunate where we can play 8 or 9, or 9, really 8 to 10 guys, really, depending on the game.
one of the things I found really interesting, especially when I talk to a lot of student athletes, is that, coming from JUCO and, the rest of them coming from their high school teams, they were the best player on their teams. They come here, now you've got 15 best players. How do you keep everybody happy? Because that's what you've done this year. I mean, this team is a group of one. There aren't 15 individuals trying to score their points or whatever. They're bought into that. I'm going to do my part to make sure that we're successful.
Well, the thing is, I've constantly tell them all year is that for us to do this, it's a team effort, and we have to be unselfish. And part of the culture and part of our offensively is what we try to do is it's an equal opportunity offense, and we share the basketball. And there have been days like Sawyer was just unbelievable against St. Thomas, and there's been games where it's been Eli, and then like Kareem hit a huge three for us the other day. And if you don't care who gets the credit, that's when you can become a great team. And I don't sense anybody jealous of one another on this team. All they want to do is win, and they're really, really happy for each other when their teammates do well. And after the game, like I said, I've never felt anyone being mad or jealous at anybody else. And I mean, Gustavus Greg came off the bench and was phenomenal. I think he had 9 points off the bench. He came in, got us some quick buckets, and he was a big spark plug for us. So it really is. They have bought in, and they're unselfish, and that's what you need, and it makes the job easier on me when they're like that.
Joe, I know you're busy getting ready for St. Thomas right now, so my guess is the magnitude of St. Mary's winning its first ever basketball playoff game hasn't set in yet. I get that, and you want to keep going. I totally understand that. But when you took the job a couple of years ago, when you were sitting in the interviews and considering taking the job, had you thought about that this is a team that has never made the playoffs, and that was maybe why you wanted this job, to kind of take this team to where you thought it could go?
Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of it for sure. I mean, obviously, I think anybody would want that as a goal. But the longer I'm here, you don't realize, you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think part of the reason I hope is that why we have been as good as we have, because I don't know how it was in the past. Right. So my mindset is different, and I'm coming in and trying to teach our guys, this is what it takes. Like, you have to work harder. We're not there yet, and I think they're getting that now. And I have to say, Eli he has matured so much in the last 2 years. And he is a big reason, obviously, why we are where we are, but not just because of his talent, because of how much better of a teammate he is. And he's been so much better. He's encouraging the guys, he's cheering them on, and he's been phenomenal with that. So he's really been the leader of where we're at, and he's setting a great example for our younger guys.
How much did it help that as an assistant coach previously, you did have some playoff experience and some deep playoff runs?
Yeah, I think it helps. Obviously I think it helped. Even in the conference tournament, where we play different now. So being at Benedictine in North Park, you play now when you get to the conference tournament, the national tournament, now you're playing with media timeouts. And I think that helps a little bit because you have less timeouts, and now we're playing. I think you have to shorten the bench, which is a little bit what we did yesterday. Now again, the guys have to buy into that because now there's guys that may have been playing a lot more. You're getting a rest every 4 minutes, plus those timeouts, plus a free throw. You can get break. There's stoppage in play. So I think that did help. I mean, I think that does help going through that. Helps you in a tournament like this. And we're playing, this league is one of the best in the country. And it's being fortunate enough to play against those teams in the national tournament at Benedictine and then in the CCIW at North Park. It's just as good. And you know what it takes, and you have to transfer that message to your team. So
one more question, then we'll bring Sarah on.
As you mentioned, I'm really curious about the TV timeouts, because it does completely change the game. Like you said, every 4 minutes there's a timeout at a stoppage, of course.
Sure.
But how, as a player, how does that affect them in that you don't have that maybe where you go 8-9 minutes without without a big stoppage like that?
Well, what I tell them is we have to win each segment. You got 4 or 5 segments, and then let's win each one. And I tell them, you got to bust your your butt, give it your all for 4 minutes. Give it your all for those 4 minutes, and then you know you're getting a break. You're getting a 2-minute break or 75-second break after 2 minutes. And then again, or after 4 minutes, but again, if there's a free throw, if there's a stoppage of play, you're getting breaks in between. So you just really need to you got to go. You just got to give it your all for every 4 minutes. And then obviously if you need a sub, we're still going to sub. But you just know that it's a shorter bench, and you got to give it your all when you're in there.
All right, Joe Fano, our head men's basketball coach at St. Mary's. Big game in the semifinals Thursday night at St. Thomas. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
All right, stay tuned here to the Cardinals Nest. Our other postseason coach, Sarah Murray from the women's hockey team, is on next here on HBC.
In NASCAR, it's not how much you want it.
Don't be nervous. Get this thing done.
It's what you're willing to do to take it. Watch the NASCAR Cup Series on FS1.
Welcome to the greatest competition ever assembled.
Missed an episode of Fox's new hit competition series?
Yippee-ki-yay, Lego Masters!
Watch anytime.
I am super stressed out.
Calm down.
You don't understand Lego.
1 hour left, everybody!
Which team will go the distance?
No!
Now we're making reality television.
Lego Masters, all new Wednesdays or anytime on demand or Fox Now.
Hometown is about how you can do big things in small towns.
6 years ago, nobody wanted to buy a house on this street.
When you improve the homes in a community, the entire town gets a new life.
Big boy coming through!
It's just really incredible to be a part of something like this.
This thing is perfect.
And I hope that it just starts a wave throughout that neighborhood.
All new Hometown, Monday night at 9 on HGTV.
And we are back on this week's Cardinals Nest as we're taking a look at the two St. Mary's winter teams that have made the postseason. We had Joe Fano on, the head men's basketball coach in the previous segment, and now Sarah Murray from the women's hockey team joins us. And Donny, great to have women's hockey back in the playoffs. And Sarah, in her first year as head coach, gets to the postseason.
Absolutely. And Sarah, if you could, before we talk about the playoffs themselves, kind of walk us through the journey to get here, especially for you being in your first year. Talk a little bit about how the season kind of progressed, getting us to a quarterfinal MIAC playoff berth.
Yeah, so our team has kind of been struggling with putting together 2 consistent games. So we kind of ended up going into the St. Ben's game knowing, like as coaches, we knew that we had to win one of the 2 games, but we didn't tell the players because we didn't want them to know like, oh, we can, not play well and lose the first game and then show up in the second game and win. We didn't tell them going into it, so after we lost the first game, our seniors thought their season was over. So we feel, and then we ended up getting the tiebreaker winning in that second game, but never in my mind and in Jason's mind, and I think in the players' mind did we think that we weren't going to be there. But I agree, like earlier in the season, like with the games against St. Kate's, we shouldn't have split against St. Kate's. We shouldn't have lost that game in overtime to Bethel. So we also kind of felt like we shouldn't have been in that tiebreaker situation. So the good thing about playing against St. Thomas, it's just a 1-game series, and we can put together one good game for sure.
Yep. And it's not on a Friday or Saturday, so
exactly. We can do it.
So, but I think that raises a question. The fact now that you play on a Thursday in the afternoon, that gets the players out of their routine, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything special you have to do as head coach to help prepare them for what's going to it'll feel, I suppose, like a Saturday afternoon game.
Yeah.
But it's a Thursday.
It is a Thursday. Yeah, I know a lot of the girls have said like, oh, it's weird, it's Thursday at 3:30, and we're like, well, it doesn't matter. You've played at 3 on Saturdays before. You've done this before.
Right.
And also like our practice time is around 4:30, so it's just an hour later. So they're used to playing at a high tempo around the same time of the day. Something that we're trying to do that we did last weekend before we went to go play St. Ben's is practice at Bud King because the ice is smaller. So they get used to the smaller ice and having to make faster decisions. So we're planning to practice at Bud King this afternoon so we can get used to playing on the smaller ice.
Now, you're at St. Thomas, and it's a team you played back on January 17th and 18th, I believe. So tell us about the Tommies and what you learned. What you learned from the first series. I'm sure she's looked at the video.
Yeah, St. Thomas is a good team. We know that for sure going into it. Our starting goalie, Ari Ziakis, she's been playing incredible for us. Like the game against Hamlin, she had 57 saves. And we had 19 shots. They had 57 shots, or 50, so they scored 3. So they had 60 shots. So she had 57 saves. Wow. And we had, in no game should a team that gets 17 shots against 60 shots tie 3-3.
Right.
You know, so she's been playing incredible for us. So going into this Thursday game, we're really relying on her a lot. We've talked to the girls about everybody bringing their best, and like, if one player doesn't show up, we're not going to have success. So definitely don't want to relive those 2 games, but we're learning from it and moving on. And like we said, it's just one game. You know, anything can happen in one game.
You know, and really, if you look at the St. Ben's series, with both your goalies, Ari and Jordan, the way the games unfolded, you needed them to be solid because in the 1-0 loss, it was the third period you gave up the goal.
Yep.
In the 4-1 win, it was 1-0 after 2 periods.
Oh, exactly.
So you know, the fact that they're keeping you in those games early as you get your offense warmed up has been pretty important.
Yeah, they've been incredible for us this year. Yeah, and I think that in the last little bit, Ari has really kind of stepped up and been that number 1 for us. Keely is a very, very close number 2. So if something were to happen, we would feel comfortable with her going in net as well. But it's easy to play confidently when you know you have a goalie behind you that will keep you in games.
You know, you keep mentioning that playing St. Thomas, it is just one game.
Yeah.
How do you make sure to keep your players just kind of on an even keel? Because they could easily put the pressure on themselves. Oh man, we only have one game we have to do. You know, how do you keep it so that they kind of approach it like it's a Friday night game rather than a playoff one and done type of a situation?
Yeah, we're doing our best this week to keep everything kind of light and fun and not teaching anything too new or adding any new structure. It's just we're going to keep doing the same things that we've always done. Might tweak things here and there, and we're just really focusing on just keeping it light and fun, living in the moment, and just kind of going into the weekend going into Thursday with the mentality that we really have nothing to lose. If we advance, we're not necessarily making history because the team's been there, but it hasn't been there for a while. The energy around the locker room is really good right now.
So it sounds like you're sort of embracing kind of that underdog role.
Yes,
is that something that you've talked about with the team, or?
I think it's just kind of an identity that we've kind of accepted. I don't know if we've actually talked to them about being underdogs, but I think that they know. And so, yeah, they've kind of accepted that role, and it's a challenge for us. And like we keep saying, like we can pull off a 3-3 game against Hamlin. Like we can tie Gustavus. That's 1-2 in the MIAC. What can we do? Like a 1 game against St. Thomas, who knows what can happen?
You know, you're the newbie. You're playing St. Thomas. The men's basketball team is playing St. Thomas. They almost beat St. Thomas last week. Have you kind of gotten the feeling of St. Thomas being the evil empire, so to speak, and what it means to the players to beat a team like that?
Yeah, I know there's, I can't remember when the girls did it, 3 or 4 years ago, they beat St. Thomas, and they talk about it like it was their national championship. Like, and they talk about it with such high regard, and our seniors, I think they were a part of that team, so they were maybe freshmen on that team. They bring it up all the time, that time that we beat St. Thomas. And so we're kind of, the evil empire, yes, I definitely feel that, especially with, I think all of their teams made it to the MIAC playoffs in the fall and in the winter. So they are a powerhouse, and yeah, we want to return to that freshman year of when we upset them. So,
Sarah, I want to go all the way back to your first appearance here on the Cardinals Nest from this past fall, early winter. At that time, we were talking about what you thought being a head coach would be like, your first year as head coach for the Cardinals. How did the reality meet the expectations? What was better than you expected? What was as expected? And maybe what took the biggest adjustment for you that maybe surprised you a little bit? So there's a lot to unpack there. But, but you can kind of take that in whatever direction you want. Sort of reality versus expectations.
Yeah, so I kind of went into this season with a very regimented, structured, this is my role, this is their role, this is how it's going to go. And as you know, you have to adjust. Things are never going to go according to plan. Yeah. But I think the biggest piece for me that I didn't necessarily expect was the relationship piece. Like when I was in Korea, my players did not speak English, so I really didn't feel like I developed relationships with them. None of them would come and just sit in my office and talk about school or their day or if something's going on with their family. But now if I leave my office door open, the girls will come. And so I just feel like the relationships with the athletes is something that I didn't necessarily have before. And I really appreciate it. I really like it because if you have that relationship, you can push them that much harder because they know that you care about them and you want them to be successful. And so, yeah, I think the relationship personal piece was something that I did not expect to happen.
Okay, good.
And if you were to give yourself a grade, A through F, on your first year heading into, you know, what would you give yourself as a grade, and then why?
Definitely not an A. I don't know. I'm a hard grader, so I would say
I figured that was coming.
And people are always hardest on themselves.
That's right. That's right.
I don't know. I would say like there were things that went well and things that definitely like I feel like you can always improve and always do better. So I would say like a C, B maybe. But yeah, there's just things that happen. Wish I would have taught this structure more. Wish I would have brought more leadership pieces into it. Just things like that we're already looking at next year. I know that the NCAA approved us having meetings with the players for a certain amount of hours before the start of the season if we're discussing leadership, so maybe doing like a book club. There's so many different ideas that I just felt like I almost didn't even have time for this year. So I think next year, yeah, there's a lot of improvement that can be made.
You know, you're lucky you're at St. Mary's because on our grading scale
it's a
at
B
St.
C.
Mary's we have a BC. It's not a B minus, it's not a C plus,
Let's
it's a
round up.
BC.
Yeah, exactly.
You talked about the personality piece. How much of being head coach has just been, you know, that side of it, kind of the mental side of it, and interacting with players, getting to know them, getting to know their strengths and weaknesses versus the X's and O's?
Yeah, I feel like Jason and I always joke about like how we talk hockey maybe 5% of the time. The other 95%, we're talking about the personalities, we're talking about school, we're talking about what hotels. The most important thing for our girls is where they're going to eat. So we're talking about where they're going to eat, but it is, the personality piece is huge. Knowing how to talk to the players, who you can push, who you can't push, who you need to pull aside and talk to one-on-one before, you know. I think that played a huge part in our team. And I've never coached a team like our team. Our team loves having fun. They're always joking around. We just had 3 overnight visits last week, and I told the girls, I said, don't be weird. Like, we really want these girls to come to campus. Don't be weird. And all of a sudden I heard counting in the locker room. I walked in and they were having a dance party. So, and the recruits said they loved it. You know, our girls welcomed them in right away, but we're definitely a different group. We definitely like to have fun. So yeah, the personality piece plays a big part.
And you still leave your office door open? You have not.
It's been closed more often lately.
Why is that?
Because you keep stealing my chair.
One last question, Sarah, then we got to go. Ice fishing. What do you think? Thumbs up? What?
I know. Jason said that you asked him if he taught me how to do that.
Yeah.
I taught myself how to do that.
Right, great.
Jason. Yeah. I had a day off and I wanted to do something fun, and so I went ice fishing for the first time, and I caught that huge fish.
That was a big fish too.
Yeah.
That was a big fish.
I know. And Donnie's like, when do you have time to do that? I was like, I don't.
Beginner's luck, or are you that good of a fisher?
Beginner's luck for sure. For sure. I didn't know how to hold it. If you watch the video, I'm asking my friend, does it have teeth? She's like, yeah, it does, but don't worry. Oh my goodness.
All right, Sarah Murray, thanks for joining us. Good luck Thursday at St. Thomas.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's.
Shout out. Just to have a quick shout out, Athletic Director Brian Sisson. Good luck on defending your grocery grab with Joe Tatey at Midtown Foods. Bring home that card again.
All right, it's going to do it for the Cardinals Nest. Thanks for watching on HBC.
As soon as I hit record, this happened.
It's like once in a lifetime thing.
People say this forest is haunted because of Slender Man.
Go, go, go.
The hair on the back of my neck stood up.
The Army Corps of Engineers saw it.
I left the camera that I used running.
All new season of Paranormal Caught on Camera starts Wednesday at 9 on Travel Channel.
I am at my breaking point.
These families, they are in a very desperate situation.
Hello.
I go into a family's home.
I'm going to watch, I'm going to observe.
To be a voice for children and bring solution to those problems that they have. Super Nanny is about transformation. When families discover the magic within themselves, that for me never gets old.
Super Nanny, all new Fridays at 9 on Lifetime.
This is big-time professional football. Fans should expect more plays, less downtime, and more scoring opportunities.
This has been sensational.
The talent in this league is actually unprecedented. We're going to have the opportunity to enjoy football throughout the spring and bring you closer to the game than you've ever been before. This is the XFL.